TV's Rob here. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First and foremost, it's free. We all like free, right? There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, making it a lot easier than the way that I go about it. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more, saving you the time, energy, and effort of having to do it yourself. It is a pain. You can make money from your podcast as well with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And if you start up a podcast using Anchor, I'll be your first guest.
Rob, wake up. No. Rob, wake up. No. TV's Rob is on woke. TV's Rob is on woke. He's on woke.
Oh, yes, indeedy. Yes, it is that time again. I am your humble, not really, host, TV's Rob. And welcome to it. This is TV's Rob is on woke. And this week, oh my God, there's just so much. There's always so much going on in the news, and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Don't know where to start. So I figured this week I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about that border crisis. You know that southern border that people are always complaining about? Yeah, I figured I'd talk a little bit about that because guess what, everybody? Our Vice President, Kamala Harris, the woman who was put in charge of fixing this, has finally taken action. Has she gone to the southern border itself? No. That's not how you handle a problem. You don't go down where the problem's actually happening. No. That's not how we do things. Instead, she boarded a plane and went to Guatemala. That's right. She went to Guatemala. And boy, were they happy to see her. Let me tell you, they were so thrilled to see her that protesters were openly mocking her. They were taunting her with signs that said that Trump won and telling her to stop funding criminals. There were even a few that said, Kamala, go home. I guess they really didn't want her there, huh? So weird. And here I was thinking that maybe we could talk them into keeping her. Do they not know that she is the Vice President of the United States of America and she demands respect everywhere she goes? Do the Guatemalans know something we don't? Do the Guatemalans know about how she got as far as she did in her career? I mean, are they wise to her spreading her legs to sleep her way to the top? No. They can't know that. They don't speak English down there. They don't get the news, right? Maybe they know that. Oh, that's crazy. Now, I'm going to guess that Kamala Harris did not take too kindly to the level of disrespect that the Guatemalans were throwing at her. Because while she was there, in her little speech, oh man, she decided to lay down the law. That's right. She was letting them know. If you're here in Guatemala and you want to come to the United States, boy, are you guys in for a surprise. Let me tell you. Here's what Kamala had to say.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration. And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back.
Woo! Do you feel that fire? Do you feel that passion? Kamala's laying it down, saying, do not come. You may be turned back. You may be turned back. Are you kidding me? So she says, do not come, do not come. And then she goes with, I believe you will be turned away. No, Kamala. Listen up. This is how it is, okay? This is how it should be. We have a lawful migrant system, immigration system. We have laws you're supposed to follow. We have rules you're supposed to follow. If you want to come here, these are the rules you're supposed to follow. If you don't follow these rules, we're turning you back. We don't want you. Follow the process. Did she say that? No. It's, we're going to protect our borders. Are you? Really? What have you done so far to protect them? Going to a foreign country and trying to talk all bad, but then immediately start backing down? You're sending the wrong message. I guess I can make a sexist joke here and say, never send a woman to do a man's job. But then when you look at her boss, President her boss, I don't exactly think that rule applies either. So where does her little speech leave us? In my expert opinion, my expert at not being an expert opinion, leaves us right where we are, right where we were before she started making the speech. Empty platitudes. Nothing's going to change. They're going to keep sending people. Now she's telling the leaders of Guatemala, we need to discourage people as much as possible. Really? How are you going to do that? Are you going to take more of our tax dollars and give them to Guatemala to keep their people there? I'm sure that's one of your solutions. Will it work? Absolutely not. Has it ever? No. But here's the interesting thing from her trip to Guatemala. She actually flew down there Sunday. Well, at least she attempted to. Her first trip abroad to Guatemala and Mexico got off to a very rocky start when a technical issue grounded Air Force Two after about 30 minutes into the flight. Now, she told reporters, I'm good. We all said a little prayer, but we're good. Did you? Reporters on the plane heard an unusual noise coming from the landing gear. But the plane arrived safely back at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. They said it was a technical issue, no major safety concerns. She switched planes and continued on her way to Guatemala City. How embarrassing. Now I'm surprised there's not any conspiracy theories rolling around there saying, oh, Trump sabotaged Air Force Two. He tried to kill Kamala Harris. Oh, that bastard. Of course, that could still come out. I better keep my mouth shut there. I want to pause for a second to talk about protein bars. We've all seen them, and we've most likely tried a few of them while trying to lose weight or just get healthier. But what's the biggest problem with all of them? Well, basically, they all taste like crap. They're hard to chew, they taste awful, and they don't provide any type of actual satisfaction. But I'm happy to say that I have found one out there that isn't anything like the rest, and that is Built Bar. Built Bar is healthier than all those other protein bars. They're low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber. They're great for keto diet. Lose or maintain weight while indulging in a delicious treat. Each bar contains only 110, 160 calories, 16 to 20 grams of protein, and 3 to 5 net carbs. Enjoy the healthiest thing you'll do today. When you eat a Built Bar, you feel better about yourself because healthy has never been this delicious. Built Bars are a lot like a candy bar, but good for you. They have 18 different flavors, including some of my own personal favorites. Cookies and cream, strawberry, peanut butter, and mint brownie. All of their bars are covered in 100% chocolate. So you're probably saying to yourself, TV's Rob, how do I get these? Where do I go? All you gotta do, go to BuiltBar.com, use the promo code TV's Rob to get 10% off your next order. Use promo code TV's Rob for 10% off at BuiltBar.com. Trust me, you'll love them. I do. BuiltBar.com, promo code TV's Rob. Alrighty, well, that's your political segment for this week. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. Kamala Harris, a buffoon, as vice president. Moving on. Before I get into the next few things I want to talk about, first, I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody on Twitter who reached out on my birthday and said happy birthday. I'd also like to thank everybody who reached out and shared congratulatory messages as my wife and I celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary. I greatly appreciate it. It's very nice of you. Now, I was thinking about telling the story about how we spent our anniversary and the experience we had and how COVID is really becoming an excuse for companies to just treat customers like but I figured I'd rather not. Instead, today, I teased this on Twitter and I teased this in last week's episode. General Motors and Chevrolet in particular have a problem, a big problem on their hands. And the problem's name is Camaro. Oh, wait, no, not Camaro. Camaro. Yes, that's what I meant. The Chevrolet Camaro. Now you could be asking yourself, TV's Rob, what are you talking about? What's the problem with the Camaro? Well, guess what, boys and girls? The future of the Camaro nameplate is uncertain. It's becoming murky and cloudy. The current 6th generation Chevy Camaro was originally expected to sunset around the 2023 calendar year, which, along with the termination of development for a 7th generation model, would make the 6th gen the, quote, final generation. So Chevrolet talking about killing off the Camaro after 2023. Now, why would they be looking to do that? I thought the Camaro was a popular car. Well, apparently, sales of the Camaro have been lackluster for quite some time, even prior to the semiconductor chip shortage, which shut down the muscle cars assembly line. The 6th generation Camaro is definitely aging, but it's still competitive against the Ford Mustang and Dodge Challenger. The problem, though, is that not enough people are buying them. Looking at the 2020 numbers, and of course, as we learned from Professor Scott Steiner,
the numbers don't lie!
Thank you, Professor Steiner. Thank you. We appreciate it. Here are the numbers. Okay? In 2020, Ford sold 61,000 Mustangs. Now, of course, it was down from the previous year, but of course, COVID factors into that. Surprisingly, premium models like the Shelby sales were actually up. Guess people wanted those gas guzzlers while gas prices were low. The Dodge Challenger continues to post healthy numbers despite having arrived in its current form as a 2008 model. The Challenger racked up 52,995 sales in the U.S. in 2020. But here's the downside. Camaro came in at just 29,775 units for the year, down from 48,265 in 2019. That is the lowest level since the 4th generation Camaro bowed out in the early 2000s. So what is Chevrolet to do? Well, apparently there's several options out on the table. There's a few scenarios out there. The first would be to discontinue the Camaro as originally planned, but that's probably not the best way to go because the Camaro has been committed to the Australian Supercar Racing Series until 2026. And I'm going to guess that series works a lot like NASCAR, where you have to have a production model as the vehicle that you race on the circuit. And honestly, when it comes to NASCAR, Chevrolet just committed millions of dollars to developing a new car for NASCAR. The next gen car, which was unveiled last month. And I don't see them wanting to just throw that money away in development of a new car. And Chevrolet's been having a stellar year this year in the NASCAR Cup Series, winning several races, including the last 4, with a combination of Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson at Hendrick Motorsports, all driving Chevrolet Camaros. Now, there's a strong possibility that the 7th generation Camaro will adopt an all-electric powertrain. That's right. Just what I've been talking about the last few weeks about Mustangs. An all-electric powertrain. GM already has the platform and batteries, and a silhouette of an EV looking very Camaro-like was recently teased. As was the case with the C8 Corvette, GM made a bold decision, and the high risk is paying off big time right now, swapping out to a mid-engine setup. Now, That doesn't mean the next Camaro will have that. I don't think it will, because that's never been something that's been really talked about for a Camaro. Now, for the Corvette, it made a lot of sense because a lot of the European cars that the Corvette competes against, they have mid-engines. The Corvette never did until recently with the C8. Now, Ford is proving, as I just mentioned, that people are ready for an all-electric Mustang variant that's paving the way to the future Mustang EV. I personally cannot stand it, and I don't want one. But given that the combustion engine Camaro isn't as popular as it once was, maybe they need to go big or go home. Go bold. Why not? Your sales are declining. What do you have to lose? What are you going to do? Just discontinue it? An all-electric Camaro might be a given, but the question becomes when. Now, don't expect anything to happen before 26 or 27, but I wouldn't be surprised if GM management decides to go ahead and give the Camaro EV the green light. Because, like I said, what do you have to lose? But I can't say that I'd be looking forward to that car. What about you? Hit me up on Twitter at TV's Rob Official, or leave a message for the show at anchor.fm/TV's Rob is Unwoke /message. I'll play your reactions. Let's find out where you stand. Now, speaking of that electric Mustang, boy, whew, let me tell you, 2021 has been a strange year. So far in 2021, Ford has built more examples of its battery electric Mustang Mach-E than the regular gas-powered Mustang. According to production data released by the automaker, 27,816 Mustang Mach-E's were built in the first 5 months of the year, compared with 26,089 for the Mustang. Now, before you start giving that gas-powered Mustang of yours its last rites, sales tell a completely different story. Although everybody will have you believe that this all-electric Mustang Mach-E is the wave of the future and, oh my God, everybody's buying it. We can't keep them on the sales floor long enough. The sales of the Mach-E over the same 5-month period came in at just 10,510 units versus 29,710 for the Mustang. So gas power still rules. But you have to wonder, why the ramp up in production? Well, because of that microchip shortage that I mentioned, Ford has been prioritizing production of the Mach-E over the regular Mustang because they have the limited amount of chips. It's still too early to determine whether the Mach-E will take over the Mustang in the sales race. God help us if it does. Oh, please don't. Please do not let this happen. If you're in the market for a new car and you are a pony car or muscle car enthusiast, please go out there and get a Mustang. Do not let them start replacing our beloved pony cars with electric versions. I mean, isn't it bad enough that we have a Hummer EV to look forward to? Not to mention, like I mentioned last week, the Ford F-150 Lightning. Can we just leave the electric cars to Elon Musk and Tesla? Please? Please? Now let's talk a little sex. Yeah. Getting down to some business. Sex. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about Dr. Ruth. What? Oh my God. Oh, did I just say that? Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Dr. Ruth, you know her. You love her. The 93-year-old sex therapist says that yes, 90-year-olds should still have sex. That's right. Dr. Ruth, 93 years old, still wanting to get down and have some sex. Some sexual relations. Her life story has become the subject of a new one-woman play called Becoming Dr. Ruth, and she was recently asked by the New York Post, should 90-year-olds still have sex? And she responded in her classic ways, if they have a good partner, they should have sex. If you don't have a partner, should satisfy themselves, period. There is no age limit. I beg to differ. Really, I beg to differ. At 90-something years old, your stuff don't work. How are you supposed to enjoy that? Honestly, you might die while doing it. I guess In the words of the Joker from the 1989 Batman movie, if you gotta go, go with a smile. Now, sticking with the sex notion, working in broadcasting can be rarely hard. And when you're a journalist, you really gotta work to get the stories. You really gotta put yourself out there, right? Well, this Danish journalist went all the way to get a scoop on a swingers club near Copenhagen when she had sex with a man she was interviewing. 26-year-old Louise Fisher can be heard moaning during the on-the-record intercourse, part of a 2-minute segment that aired on Radio 4 in Denmark. Now, I have a question. Is 2 minutes all it lasted, or is that how they just cut it down for airtime? Because if it was just 2 minutes, whoa, damn. You gotta talk to that guy and say, need to up your game, son. Now, she said, I don't have a boyfriend. That definitely made it a lot easier. My mother just thinks it's funny and laughs. My father thought it was really cool. The X-rated segment focused on the reopening of a swingers club named Swingland after the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions. At one point during the segment, full of sounds of body slapping, the journalist asks the man she is having sex with if he can tell her what he's seeing, and he responds, a delicious woman. It hadn't been part of the plan ahead of the report to participate in the club. Tina Kraglin, Radio 4's head of news, says that the station approved of the move. Feel like I just think it's cool when the reporters try to make the stories in a different way. Now, how is that for dedication to your craft to go into a swingers club and participate in having some sex to get a story? Louise Fisher, you are a hero. Don't let anybody tell you did something wrong. So a few weeks ago, I talked about a bar owner who was trolling LeBron James, saying that NBA games wouldn't be shown there until LeBron's out of the league. And LeBron, of course, had to talk his game, and the guy was like, thanks to you, my bar's never been busier. Well, that bar owner is definitely not alone. A new study finds that LeBron James is the most hated player in the NBA. According to the social media use survey by Sports Insider using Trend software with direct access to geotag Twitter data, the study tracked negative mentions of NBA players on Twitter. The study tracked negative tweets such as, I hate LeBron or LeBron sucks, and similar negative comments from many players. The data was then grouped by region and measured against which players received the most negative tweets across a map of the states. And LeBron won it. Well, good for him. He can't win an NBA title this year since the Lakers got trounced in the playoffs. But at least he got a title this year, right? He won it hands down, going away with 24 states lining up against him. Kyrie Irving factored in second place, with 18 states hating him the most. Other players who saw negative reactions include James Harden, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and Paul George. LeBron was rated most hated in states including Oregon, Utah, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, North and South Dakota, Indiana, Pennsylvania, and others. As to Kyrie Irving, he was most hated in states including Illinois, Missouri, Washington, and Colorado. Now, of course, it should be noted that this study only followed negative tweets. Positive tweets are not factored into the data. But I'm going to take a win when I see a win. And LeBron James, you're the most hated player in the NBA. Congratulations, you ginormous douche nozzle. And speaking of douche nozzles, now I have to ask you before I get started into this. If there were going to be a street brawl involving a pair of CNN anchors, and those anchors being Jake Tapper and Chris Cuomo, who would you pick to win? Let me know on Twitter at TV's Rob Official, or leave a message on the TV's Rob is Unwoke page on anchor.fm/TV's Rob is Unwoke. I'm really curious to find out what you guys think. I'll tell you who I think. I think that Chris Cuomo would win, just because that fool seems to just take insane care of himself. You know, he's dancing in his daughter's TikTok videos with his shirt off, and then he's outside naked while his wife's doing yoga or whatever. Well, Jake Tapper ripped his colleague Chris Cuomo for secretly strategizing with his brother, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, the biggest douchebag alive, over the explosive sexual harassment allegations against the governor. Tapper told the New York Times in a recent podcast interview, "I cannot imagine a world in which anybody in journalism thinks that was appropriate." This coming from the guy who takes so many passive-aggressive shots anytime he can. Now, Chris Cuomo, who hosts CNN's news analysis show. I like how they call Cuomo Primetime a news analysis. Why don't you call it what it really is? A douchebag lying to the public and spinning the news to fit his narrative. He reportedly took part in repeated strategy sessions between his brother and the governor's top aides earlier this year to figure out how to handle the allegations against Andrew, with the TV talker insisting his sibling shouldn't become a victim of cancel culture and resign. Your brother has been sexually harassing women for decades. Yes, he needs to resign. He lied about COVID. He killed Gangi, okay? He needs to go. But I guess if he were to resign, that would make him a victim of cancel culture. Now, Tapper took issue, saying that Chris, in his apology that he delivered on air, said that he put us in a bad spot. And I would also like to agree with that. And then just as a last point, I would say that I work very hard to be fair and to be ethical and not to cross lines. And I certainly understand the love that Chris has for his brother. And I have a brother, and I get it. But that was not a fun day, Tapper added, apparently referring to when the Washington Post first reported that Chris was advising his brother on the slew of allegations against him. I like how Tapper tries to say he works very hard to be fair and ethical. I'd like to see that. Can anybody actually remember a time when Jake Tapper was ethical and fair? I know he gets one right every now and then, but no, this guy has an agenda just like everybody else there at CNN. Now with Chris Cuomo, this is nothing new. Do we all remember the Summer of Love last year on CNN, where he was interviewing his brother basically once a week and practically sucking him off, saying, "Oh, Andrew, you're doing such a great job with COVID. Why don't you tell us what's going on?" And of course, Andrew would say, "Oh, haven't seen you over for dinner lately." Really? We were talking about meatballs and marinara sauce during a global pandemic. These guys are just clowns. Just absolute clowns. But I wonder, who would win in a street brawl? Jake Tapper or Chris Cuomo? Let me know. And to wrap up this week's edition of TV's Rob is Unwoke, here's something that I promised on Twitter. This is a thing going on between myself and Tyler Morgan, host of the Relentless Daring podcast. We pick up on and obsess on the weirdest things. A few weeks ago, we were talking about Alyssa Milano and her shotgun mic with her podcast setup. Girl, you have the money. Just buy a proper setup, okay? Or poor editing in published articles by actual news sources. I can understand if I have a typo or if I suck at math, okay? Y'all know what I'm talking about. But really, these are the things that we pick up on. These are the things we just can't let go of. Well, I promised that there was a new one this week, and here it is. And this is something that I've really been just holding in for a year now. I kind of understood with COVID lockdowns, people in broadcast had to kind of make do. Radio jocks had to figure out how to get on the air from home with makeshift equipment because companies just didn't put the money into the resources to actually do it right. TV companies were stuck scrambling to get their contributors and even their hosts on the air, giving a lot of them home setups, which some of them good, a lot of them not so good. And I think it is time that we stop with this because it has allowed subpar audio and video to be considered broadcast quality. Now look, podcasters, I give you a free pass because you can't be expected, if you're somebody who doesn't work in the industry, You're not expected to have the greatest of equipment. You're not expected to have the best sounding gear. You're not expected to have the best setups and know how to set them up properly, okay? Podcasters, you could record on your phone if you want. So long as it's listenable, it's all good. But I'm talking broadcast television. Networks that spend millions of dollars on talent, millions of dollars on equipment. For you to sound like, really honestly, a junior college or even high school TV or radio outfit is ridiculous. And the thing that really got me triggered on this was this recent piece from Fox 4 Sports here in Dallas-Fort Worth. You had two of their sports anchors at home communicating, I guess, through Zoom with their earbud microphones talking back and forth. And I'm thinking, wait a second. We're supposed to have the COVID vaccines and everybody's supposed to be able to get back to work. Texas is open. People have been working for a while now. You mean to tell me you ass clowns can't get back into a studio and do this right? Unbelievable to me. Here's a clip from that. It is two sports reporters from KDFW, Fox 4 Sports here in Dallas-Fort Worth.
TNT's Charles Barkley came out after Game 4 and says he thinks the Mavs are done, that they will not win another game. Mike, what say you?
It's tempting, Sam, to say that. I mean, that's the way it's trending right now.
It feels it.
There's no doubt about it. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think the trends are going to change somewhat, in that I think the Clippers are going to go back home and win a game tomorrow night. But I think the Mavs will come back here and win a game on Friday night at American Airlines Center.
Now, mind you, I'm working from home too, some of the time. I'm recording this at home. I'm not using any of the resources that any of my employers provide me in order to make this podcast happen. I do this from home. So if I could sound the way that I sound, take the voice quality out of it, okay? I know I have a crappy voice. If I could sound how I sound, why can't these people sound like professionals? The fact that we've allowed this to become the norm has got to stop. It pisses me off. Otherwise, every Tom, Dick, and Harry could be on TV. Lord knows every Tom, Dick, and Harry pretty much is on TV nowadays, because we're all trying to be influencers. But the days of subpar video from a webcam that's pixelated and crappy, and the days of using your AirPods or your earbud microphone as your mic, that's got to go. It's time to move on from that. So this is the latest thing that I just cannot let go of. Just a quick tease for you. On the next episode of TV's Rob is Unwoke, we're going to talk a little Bubba Wallace. We're going to talk a little Sophie Turner. Or is she Boy George reincarnated? I'm not too sure. Either way, we're going to talk about them and a bunch of other things, because there's always just so much. Maybe I'm going to have to do this more than just once a week, because there's just so much. I don't know what to do. Anyways, that's going to do it for this edition of TV's Rob is Unwoke. I thank you for coming along, and I hope that you stuck around and listened to the whole thing, because I think that there was some pretty fun stuff in here. And if you want to get in on the action and make your mark on the show, go to anchor.fm/TV's Rob is Unwoke /message and leave a voice message. Really, you could do it on your phone. You could do it on a computer. You could do it on your iPad. The options are nearly limitless. So go on to anchor.fm/TV's Rob is Unwoke and leave a voice message. Be a part of the show. Make your voices heard. I'll play a selection of those messages in future episodes. Also, if you want to come on the show and talk about something that's really bothering you, send me a message on Twitter at TV's Rob Official. We'll discuss whatever is on your mind in a future edition. We're going to have Hillary Kennedy from the 4-Minute Buzz at Blaze TV, Blaze Media, on to talk about things that are on her mind. Of course, I don't think anything's really going to be pissing her off. She'll probably come in with some positive news. Who knows? You know her, you love her. Hillary Kennedy coming up on TV's Rob is Unwoke. Special thanks to my wife and producer, Nikki. You can follow her on Twitter at DFW Radio Girly. Also, the executive producer, the Derpy Cat Ryoga. You can follow him on Twitter. My cat has a Twitter, dear God, at Cat Ryoga, RYOGA. Also, special shout out and appreciation to Joey, the guy who created the original music and the theme that you heard at the beginning of the show. Much appreciated. I still get a kick every time I hear it. Again, thanks for coming along. I'm TV's Rob, and this is TV's Rob is Unwoke.